I always knew my parents played favorites, but I used to tell myself it wasn't that bad. My sister, Lauren, was the golden child from the moment she was born. She was the one who made good choices, who never caused trouble. Meanwhile, I was the one who should have tried harder. Even after we grew up, got married, and had kids, nothing changed. Lauren's kids were brilliant angels. Mine were a handful, but I tolerated it. I bit my tongue at every little jab, every backhanded compliment, every side comment about how some mothers just have it easier. I told myself to rise above it, for my kids' sake. Last Thanksgiving, though, everything changed. My parents were hosting dinner at their house in North Carolina. It had become a yearly thing. Same house, same menu, same drama. My husband, Ethan, and I drove 6 hours with our 2 kids, Mia and Connor, who are 6 and 8. The moment we arrived, my mom greeted us with her usual tight smile. "Oh, you made it," she said, as if we'd just dropped by uninvited. Lauren and her husband, David, were already there with their twins, Ava and Lily. My mom was fussing over them like they were royalty. "They must be so tired from their flight," she said, stroking Ava's hair. "I'll get them settled." No such treatment for my kids, of course. She barely glanced at them before handing me a list of chores. "Can you start on the salad? And maybe set the table while you're at it?" I nodded, trying not to roll my eyes. Ethan caught my gaze and gave me a small smile. The kind that said we've been here before. He helped the kids unpack their bags while I got to work. The house smelled like roasted turkey and cranberry sauce, warm and nostalgic. For a moment, I wanted to believe this year might be different. Maybe, just maybe, my mom would finally see us equally. Dinner was ready by 6. The table looked beautiful, candles flickering. The good china out, the kind she never used unless Lauren was visiting. We all gathered around, and my mom announced, "Let's make sure the little ones eat first." I smiled, thinking she meant all the kids. But then she added, "Lauren's girls first, of course." I blinked. "Mom," I said carefully, "what about Maya and Connor?" "Oh, they can wait a few minutes," she said briskly. "There's plenty of food. Let the twins start. Lauren's flight was delayed, and they're starving." Lauren smiled apologetically, but didn't say a word to defend me. My father nodded in agreement. "Let's not make this a big deal," he muttered. I stared at my kids, who were standing quietly beside me, confused. "It's okay, Mom," Mia whispered. My heart cracked a little. I forced a smile. "Of course, sweetie," I said softly. But when I looked down the table and saw Ava and Lily already being served turkey and mashed potatoes while my kids waited, something in me snapped. It wasn't just about the food. It was about years of being second best. Years of watching my parents gush over my sister's every move while dismissing mine. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn their approval, trying to be the kind of daughter they'd be proud of. But standing there, watching my kids' faces fall, I realized something. I wasn't just failing myself. I was teaching them to accept the same kind of treatment I had. I took a slow breath and sat down beside them. "We'll wait," I said. My mother barely looked up. "Suit yourself," she said, spooning gravy onto Ava's plate. Ethan squeezed my hand under the table, silently asking me not to explode. I didn't. Not yet, but something changed in that moment. As we finally served ourselves, what was left of the turkey, some lukewarm stuffing, and scraps of bread, I knew I was done trying. I smiled through the rest of dinner, said all the right things, and even helped clear the dishes afterward. My mom seemed pleased, thinking I'd let it go. But in my head, I was already planning something different. Something quiet. Something lasting. That night, when the house went still, I watched my kids sleeping beside their little travel bags. They'd smiled at me before bed, pretending they weren't hurt, pretending it didn't matter. But I saw it. I saw how they looked when their cousins were called. The special ones. And I decided right then, I'd never let anyone, not even family, make my kids feel small again. When we got home 2 days later, I started distancing myself. No calls. No texts. When my mother messaged me about family updates, I'd reply with one-word answers. When she asked if we were coming for Christmas, I said we had plans. We didn't. But she didn't need to know that. Ethan supported me completely. "You're finally setting boundaries," he said one night as we put the kids to bed. He was right. For once, I wasn't reacting. I was rebuilding. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be in silence, in success. In showing them that their favoritism no longer defined us. I didn't know it then, but that dinner would be the last time they got to treat us that way. Because the next time they saw us, the tables would turn, literally and figuratively. A few months passed after Thanksgiving, and for once, the silence from my parents didn't sting. It was strange, almost peaceful. No calls pretending to check in. No guilt-laced messages about how family should forgive. Just quiet. Ethan said I seemed lighter, and maybe he was right. I'd stopped waiting for their approval, stopped bending backward to make everyone comfortable but myself. Life was suddenly simple. I worked, spent weekends at the park with the kids, cooked dinners without worrying who'd criticize the seasoning. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon, my phone lit up with a number I'd half forgotten. Mom. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me wanted to hear what she had to say. "We're having a family dinner next month," she said brightly, too brightly. "Your sister's coming with the twins. We'd love to see you all." I hesitated. "Why now?" "Oh, Jenna," she said with that sugar-coated sigh, "it's been long enough. Let's just move on. It's not healthy to hold grudges." I bit my tongue. Sure, because calling my kids leftovers wasn't exactly a misunderstanding. Still, part of me wanted to go. Not for them, but for me. I wanted to see them. Really see them. Without the guilt. "Fine," I said. "We'll be there." Ethan looked up from the sink. "You're sure?" "Positive," I said. "This time, it's going to be different." And I meant it. The day of the dinner, I wore my calm like armor. The table was dressed like a magazine spread, fine china, candles. The smell of roast turkey drifting through the house. Mom fluttered between the kitchen and the dining room like a general directing troops. Dad sat on his recliner, pretending to watch football, but really just avoiding work. Lauren arrived first, late as usual, sweeping in with her twins in matching sweaters, all energy and noise. "Aunt Jenna!" They chirped, hugging me like nothing ever happened. I smiled and hugged them back, because none of this was their fault. My own kids, Leon and Ava, stood behind me, polite, quiet, waiting for a cue. "You all must be starving," Mom said. "Let's eat." She gestured for Lauren's kids to start fixing their plates first. Just like last time. My stomach twisted, but I kept smiling. "Go ahead, sweethearts," I told my kids softly. "We'll wait." Ethan shot me a look, but I shook my head. Not yet. I had a plan. Dinner went as expected. Lauren bragged about her new SUV, her twins' private school, her incredible new side business selling skincare. Mom and Dad beamed like proud sponsors. No one asked how my job was going, or how the kids liked their new school. We were invisible again. But that was fine, because this time, invisibility was part of the setup. As everyone dug in, I made sure to serve just enough food for my kids to have a small portion, and quietly slipped a covered casserole dish from my bag. Ethan raised an eyebrow. I smiled. "Trust me," I whispered. We ate quietly, while Lauren's kids piled on seconds. When dessert came around, Mom apologized sweetly. "Oh, Jenna, I didn't realize there wasn't enough for seconds." "The kids just loved it." I nodded. "No problem. We're fine." But when everyone had settled into the living room, I stood up. "Actually," I said, "I brought something." All eyes turned to me. I went to the kitchen, pulled out the casserole dish, and placed it on the table. I lifted the lid slowly. Inside was a full tray of homemade lasagna. Golden, steaming perfect. The same recipe Mom always claimed was too much effort. "Wow," Lauren said. "That looks amazing." I smiled. "Thanks. It's for my kids." I figured, since they usually get what's left, I'd bring something of our own. The room went still. Mom's smile froze halfway. Dad coughed. Lauren gave that nervous little laugh people do when they realize they're not in on the joke. "Jenna." Mom started, her voice sharp. "That's not necessary." Oh, I think it is, I said sweetly. You've made it clear before who gets to eat first around here. I just wanted to make sure mine didn't have to wait again. Silence stretched. Even the twins stopped talking. Ethan stood beside me now, quiet but solid. You're overreacting, Mom said finally. It was one dinner. No, I said. It was years of dinners. Of birthdays where Lauren's cake was homemade and mine was store-bought. Of her kids getting the first slice while mine got the crumbs. Of you telling me to understand because she's had it harder. You're being cruel, Mom snapped. Cruel? I laughed. You told my kids to wait for leftovers, Mom. You made them feel small. So, if protecting them makes me cruel, I can live with that. Lauren stood up, her face pale. Let's not make a scene, she muttered. Oh, sweetie, I said softly. I'm done making scenes. I'm just setting boundaries. Ethan started packing the kids' coats, and I grabbed the lasagna, still hot. We'll eat at home, I said. You can finish what's left. And with that, we left. No yelling, no drama. Just quiet dignity, the kind that leaves a scar. Later that night, as we sat around our own table eating, Liam said, Mom, this tastes better than theirs. I smiled. That's because it's ours, honey. All ours. My phone buzzed with messages. Mom, Dad, Lauren, all some version of, you embarrassed us. I put the phone face down and kept eating. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't hungry for their approval. Just peace. The following week was quieter than usual, but it wasn't the good kind of quiet. It was that thick, heavy silence that follows after a storm, where you know the next wave is coming. You just don't know when. Mom hadn't called since the dinner. Dad texted once, saying, you shouldn't have done that in front of everyone. And that was it. Lauren, of course, went straight to social media. Her post was perfectly worded. Family can be so cruel sometimes. Imagine trying to embarrass your own parents at dinner. Some people never grow up. The comments poured in. Her friends wrote things like, you're so strong, girl, and don't let negative people ruin your peace. I didn't respond. I didn't even open the comment section after that. I was done playing defense in a game I never agreed to. Ethan, ever the calm one, told me to let it go. You made your point, he said one evening as we cleaned up after dinner. They know what they did. I nodded, but deep down, I wasn't sure they did. They'd spent so long convincing themselves that I was overreacting, that my boundaries were disrespect, that my silence was arrogance. People like that don't learn unless the consequences match the hurt they caused. So, I decided it was time for part 2 of my quiet revenge. See, every year, my parents hosted a spring family barbecue. Big event. Around 50 people came, cousins, neighbors, old friends from church. It was their pride and joy, their family tradition, and every year, I paid for most of it. The catering, the decorations, the rental chairs, all quietly billed to my credit card because your dad forgot to move the money. I never said a word. This year, I didn't forget, I just didn't pay. A week before the barbecue, Mom called, her voice all honey and sunshine. Hi, sweetie! Just checking if you sent the deposit to the catering company yet. I smiled to myself. Oh, I didn't, I said casually. I figured Lauren could handle it this year, since she's always saying she wants to help more. The silence on the other end was almost musical. Lauren, she repeated, like I'd suggested hiring a toddler. She doesn't have time for that. She's busy with her business. Right, I said. Well, I'm busy too. Jenna, Mom said in that scolding tone, you know this is tradition. So was fairness, I said. And look how that turned out. I hung up before she could reply. The next few days, I could feel the panic through the phone. Missed calls, guilt, tripping texts. Even a message from Dad saying, you're punishing us over one dinner. I ignored it all. The morning of the barbecue, I packed a picnic basket for my family and drove to the lake instead. We grilled hot dogs, fed ducks, and laughed until my cheeks hurt. Meanwhile, my cousin sent me a photo from the barbecue. The decorations were bare, the food setup was minimal, and people looked confused. Turns out, Lauren's business money didn't cover half the cost. and Mom was too proud to admit they were short. The event that was supposed to be their annual show of family unity turned into a potluck scramble. No tents, no DJ, just a few folding tables and wilted coleslaw. Karma, I realized, had excellent timing. That evening, as the sun set over the lake, I got a call from Lauren. I let it ring twice before answering. "What the hell? Jenna?" she snapped. "You knew they were counting on you." "Counting on me," I said calmly. "Funny. Because I don't remember being part of the family last time I checked." "You're so dramatic," she shot back. "You could have told them you weren't paying." "Oh, I did," I said. "They just didn't listen, like always." She went quiet. Mom was embarrassed. She said finally. "People were talking." "You mean like when she embarrassed my kids in front of the whole family?" "Yeah, I can imagine how that feels." "It's not the same." "It's exactly the same," I said. "You just don't like being on the other side of it." She hung up. I smiled. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the weaker sister, the one who had to make peace after every mess. I felt balanced. The next morning, Mom showed up at my house. She didn't knock, just rang the bell like it was an emergency. When I opened the door, she had that look, the one she used when she was about to deliver a lecture dressed as an apology. "Can we talk?" she asked. "You already did," I said, several times. "Jenna, please. This has gone too far." I crossed my arms. Too far is telling my kids they don't matter. Too far is expecting me to pay for everything while you praise Lauren for showing up. Too far, I said, my voice steady now, was pretending I was never good enough. Her lips trembled. "You've changed," she said softly. "No, Mom," I replied. "I just stopped letting you take advantage of me." She blinked, like she hadn't expected me to say it out loud. "We didn't mean." "You did," I interrupted. "And I accepted it for years. But not anymore." For once, she didn't argue, she just nodded slowly, turned, and walked to her car. I watched her go without flinching. When I closed the door, Ethan looked up from the couch. "That felt final," he said. "Yeah," I whispered. It was. That night, as I tucked the kids into bed, Liam asked, "Are we still going to Grandma's next weekend?" I shook my head. "Not this time, buddy." Because of what she said. "Because we deserve better," I said. He smiled sleepily. "Good. Their food's not even that good." I laughed quietly, kissed his forehead, and turned off the light. Maybe one day, my parents would realize what they lost. But until then, I was finally free. No more guilt, no more waiting for scraps. Just peace, the kind that comes when you stop apologizing for wanting respect. 3 weeks passed before I heard from my parents again. I honestly thought they'd stay silent forever, which I was completely fine with. My life had gotten quieter, calmer, and lighter. I spent more time with Ethan and the kids, actually enjoying dinner without checking my phone every 5 minutes, or feeling the pressure to keep up appearances for people who never appreciated me. Then one afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. It was short. "We need to talk. Please." I knew it was Mom. I ignored it. 10 minutes later, she called from Dad's phone. I answered this time, not because I wanted to talk, but because I was curious. "Jenna," she began softly. "Your father isn't well. He's been stressed. Can you come by this weekend?" The old me would have said yes immediately. The old me would have rearranged her schedule, baked cookies, and gone over with the kids in their nicest clothes. But I wasn't that person anymore. "I hope he feels better," I said calmly. "But we're busy this weekend." There was a long pause. "You've made your point," she said, her tone shifting from sad to sharp. "You've punished us enough. Don't you think it's time to move on?" I almost laughed. "Move on? You mean forget?" "There's a difference." "You're being cruel," she snapped. "No," I said. "I'm just not being your doormat anymore." I hung up before she could guilt me again. Ethan looked up from his laptop. "They'll keep trying," he said. "I know," I replied. "But I'm not giving in." The next few weeks, I kept my distance. For the first time, my boundaries stayed intact. Then came the real twist. My cousin Emily called one afternoon, her voice trembling with both excitement and disbelief. "Did you hear?" she asked. "Your parents are selling the house." I froze. "What? The same house they swore they'd never leave?" "Yep," she said. "Apparently. The barbecue flop embarrassed them so bad, they want a fresh start. They're downsizing." I couldn't help but smirk. That house was their pride. 4 bedrooms, a big backyard. The same place they used to host every family event while bragging about. Their perfect family. Selling it meant something had shifted for real. A few days later, Mom called again. This time I answered. "Hi, Mom? Jenna?" she said, her voice tired. "I wanted you to hear it from us. We're moving to Arizona. Your dad's retirement plan came through. And we need a change." "I see," I said carefully. "That sounds good for you." She sighed. "You're not going to ask why we didn't tell you sooner." "You just did," I replied. Silence. Then she said something that surprised me. "Why miss the kids?" My heart twinged, but I stayed firm. "The kids miss the version of you that was kind to them." She didn't respond. Instead, she said, "If you ever decide to visit, you'll always be welcome." That was her olive branch. Small, stiff, and late, but it was something. "Thanks," I said. "I'll think about it." After I hung up, I sat there for a while, thinking about everything that had happened. The dinner, the humiliation, the guilt, the cold silence, and now this strange, bittersweet calm. Ethan came over and sat beside me. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "It's just weird." I waited years for them to realize what they did, and now that they kind of have, I don't even want the apology anymore. "That's called peace," he said. "It's weird at first, but it's good for you." He was right. The following month, I got an invitation in the mail, handwritten, no text messages, no calls. It was from Lauren. The envelope was cream-colored, the handwriting perfect as ever. Inside, it said, "Family Reunion Dinner, hosted by Lauren and Jake. Hope to see you there." I almost laughed out loud. The irony was too perfect. After everything that happened, she wanted to play hostess now. Ethan read it over my shoulder. "You're not going, right?" "Oh, I'm going?" I said with a grin. "But this time, it'll be on my terms." The dinner was at a fancy restaurant downtown. Everyone showed up. Cousins, uncles, even distant relatives. The room buzzed with fake smiles and clinking glasses. Lauren wore a designer dress, and that self-satisfied smirk I knew too well. When she saw me walk in with Ethan and the kids, her smile faltered for half a second before she pulled it back. "You made it," she said in a sugary voice. "Of course," I said smoothly. "Wouldn't miss it." Dinner started. The waiter asked who was handling the bill. Lauren cleared her throat and said, "Well, split it evenly." I raised an eyebrow. "Evenly? You invited everyone, didn't you?" "Yes, but..." "Then you host," I said simply. The table went quiet. A few relatives exchanged looks. She flushed red. "You know, Jenna, you've really changed." "I know," I said, smiling. "It's called growing a backbone." Ethan chuckled under his breath. The food arrived, and I made sure my kids got served first. I caught Lauren's eyes across the table as the waiter set down their plates before anyone else's. I leaned forward slightly and said, "Kids first, right?" Her face twisted just enough for me to know she remembered. Karma, I thought, had impeccable timing. The dinner went on awkwardly after that. People talked, laughed too loudly, avoided eye contact. When it was over, everyone left in small, uncomfortable clusters. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel smug, either. I just felt done. As we walked to the car, Ethan looked at me. "That was poetic," he said. I smiled. Closure usually is. Weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that Lauren had complained to my mom, who apparently just sighed and said, "Well, maybe now she knows how it feels." That sentence, those 6 words, were the real apology I'd been waiting for. Not spoken to me, but spoken about me. And that was enough. That night, after tucking the kids in, I sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like the forgotten daughter or the less successful sister. I felt like someone who had taken back her power, quietly, gracefully, and completely. My revenge wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was in the silence that followed, the peace that replaced the chaos, and the strength that came from finally choosing myself. And as I sat there, I realized something beautiful. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't making them suffer. It's making yourself so happy they can't touch you anymore.